Hello and welcome to the Rambling Director. Today we are going to be looking at one of my favorite pieces of Christmas art of all time. This is the 1971 production of A Christmas Carol. This was a beautiful hand-animated production which stars Alastair Sim, who you might know from the 1951 production, which was a live-action movie. It also has Michael Hordern, who you also know from that same production as Jacob Marley, the ghost of Jacob Marley. Yeah, Chuck Jones was an executive producer. You may know him. He's a veteran animator, like an animator who really changed the way the game was played. Of course, a large part of his career, what defined his career was Looney Tunes and the Merry Melodies.
The time, 1843. The season, that of jollity, of festivity and charity, holly and berries and goodwill to all men, with perhaps one exception. And it is with this exception that we are concerned in our story. The exception is Ebenezer Scrooge.
Wonderful animation. It almost has like a charcoal sort of look to a lot of it, especially the backgrounds. It's just gorgeous animation to look at. Now, I know some people would say that the style, some of the close-ups can be a little bit off-putting, but you gotta understand that was just the style of these sort of things.
Uncle. God save you.
Hi, Fred.
Humbug. Christmas a humbug.
Yeah, like that. That is quite an impressive close-up, isn't it?
Merry Christmas? What reason have you to be merry? You're poor enough.
Well, come then. What reason have you to be morose? You're rich enough.
I really enjoy the advantages that it takes of being animated by really exaggerating the looks of the characters while keeping them very human.
If I could work my will, every idiot who'll go to back with Merry Christmas on his lips should be boiled in his own pudding and buried with a stake of holly through his heart.
Uncle.
Keep Christmas in your own
I really
way
enjoy
and let
Alastair
me
Sim,
keep it
Sims
mine.
in both production.
Don't be angry, Uncle.
His
Come, dine with us tomorrow.
emotion,
Never.
the subtlety he finds in this character.
I'm sorry with all my heart to find you so resolute. But I'll keep my Christmas humor to the last. So,
It's important. A lot of the great lines of A Christmas Carol that were so shocking when they were written, and meant to be shocking, by the way.
Merry Christmas, sir.
Merry Christmas, sir. Get lost over time because they become cliches. Oh, did you see that little eye roll? That was fantastic, wasn't it? It's like, oh, more of these Christmas idiots.
Died 7 years ago this very night.
At this festive season of
I'm
the
not
year,
going to
Scrooge,
apologize for
two
your
of us
partner
are endeavouring
dying.
to raise a fund to buy
Look at him
for meat
tapping
and drink
his
and means of warmth.
quill against his face. That's fantastic.
Prisons.
Plenty of prisons.
Here's another great line that gets lost over time.
Poor Lord, the union workhouses, they in full vigor then?
Both very busy, sir.
Oh, I was afraid from what you said at first that something had occurred to stop them in their useful course. I don't make merry myself at Christmas, and I can't afford to make idle people merry. Yes, I know you'll tell me that many can't go there, and many would rather die. Well, we'd better do that than decrease the surplus population. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
Now, this one does kind of gloss over that line a little bit. I do find that it's very hard for a lot of people to get the full impact of what a horrific thing that is to say. And especially in today's climate, when a lot of people say that due to things like climate change and stuff like that, there are just too many people, which is a dangerous thing to say. It's a terribly dangerous thing to say, and a lot of people don't realize the weight of what they're actually saying. Much like Scrooge does not. So whenever I hear somebody say, there's just too many people in the world, I think, oh, you're Ebenezer Scrooge. You don't realize how horrific what you just said is.
Be here all the earlier the next morning.
Even the blind man's dog knew old Scrooge and avoided him. Scrooge kept
Very
his
few
humanity
versions
at a
keep that in. It's a hard thing to put in. I love in the very opening of the Jim Carrey production that Robert Zemeckis directed. I love that they actually kept the dog leading the blind man away.
Jacob Marley.
Now, something that I really do love about this production is because it's animated. Very few productions, even animated versions, take advantage of that. That the knocker can really transform. Look how stark that is. That was beautiful. Now, in the book, actually, if you've never read the book actually says that the banister of the stairs, the width of the stairs, was wide enough that that an entire hearse could fit up the stairs. And the reason, and he actually says this, Charles Dickens says this, the reason I mention it is because that's what Scrooge thought he saw. And a lot of people miss it because it seems like it's just a description up until that very last little bit that is almost like a twist in the dialogue. It takes you through, and then in the very last minute he throws in this little twist. Sound design is so important with the Marley character. It really is. Some versions do not, they don't take full advantage of what a scary character this is.
You don't believe in me.
I don't.
There's something very scary about the way he never quite looks at him.
An undigested bit of beef, a fragment of an underdone potato. There's more of gravy than of grave about you.
Oh my gosh, that's just so... Look at that, that's my reaction, man.
I wear the chain I forged in life. I made it.
That is such a horrifying image. And the fact that his mouth doesn't even move. It would be very easy to say this was cheap so they didn't have to sync the mouth. But, oh my gosh, I think it was purposely done. Because they clearly didn't skip out on lip syncing with any other characters.
Mankind was my business. Why did I walk through crowds of fellow beings with my eyes turned down, and never raise them to that blessed star which led the wise men to a poor abode?
This is actually one of the very few productions that keeps in that line from the book. That what he says is draws a direct parallel. I kept my eyes downcast. I didn't look at the poor around me to help them. Imagine if the wise men had not looked up to the star that led them to a poor home. Look at how long that chain is. That's fantastic.
Expect the first tomorrow.
This production, you really feel the weight of those chains. And I think the fact that his coattails are floating actually adds to it. And look at this beautiful camera angle from the rafters.
On the next night, when the last stroke of 12 has
Ceased to vibrate.
The air was filled with moaning phantoms. Their misery was
Look
plain
at
they
that.
had lost the
You could
power
hang that on your
fearful
wall.
good
It's so
of human
beautiful
nature.
and grotesque and macabre. And, you know, again, it's just something that very few versions take full advantage of, but my gosh, what a powerful image.
Scrooge
The idea that,
awoke to the chimes of a
you know, they
neighboring
say
clock.
when you give a gift, you're the one who gets the gift, really. When you're generous, you're the one really receiving something. But to see, when you refuse to give your entire life, ultimately, you're the one who ultimately is punished because you realize all the missed opportunities you had.
Who and what are you?
I am the ghost of Christmas past.
In the book, it describes the Ghost of Christmas Past as looking something like a candle with a very bright light. And also that it looked simultaneously old and young at the same time. The way they get around this in this production, and again, fully take advantage of that Caesar-inducing transition, fully take advantage of that
There's a boy here.
beautiful imagery, is by tripling the image. And if you watch the ghost,
What is that upon
her
your feet?
the lines under her eyes and the wrinkles come and go. It makes her look like she's both simultaneously aging and reverse aging at the same time. It is a fantastic visual. And again, it's just taking advantage
The school is not
of
quite deserted.
what animation can do. And I actually found that
Neglected by his friends.
some of the great things about the Jim Carrey Robert Zemeckis collaboration was exactly that. It took advantage of a lot of it. But it actually, there was a lot of things I felt they could have taken more advantage of.
Let us see another Christmas.
Visually, look at that. Watch that. That is amazing, isn't it? But I also love the fact that the stories, he sees the stories dancing in his head. It's a beautiful way of taking a verbal medium like a book and putting it into a very simple visual medium. So instead of describing how Scrooge would read about these stories and his childhood and how to him as a child they seemed so real, we just see the images dancing in his head. That's fantastically done. Bravo. Bravo, animators. Bravo.
Christmas to you. Hilly-ho, lad!
Of course, being animated, you can make him look just like himself as a young man. It's really brilliant. For 25 minutes, and exactly 25 minutes, this production really is more true to the book in a lot of senses than almost any other version. It gets everything in by simply condensing it, but it doesn't just condense it, because a lot of versions do that. What it does is condense it to its finest, most refined elements of dialogue, and take everything else and put it entirely into gorgeous visuals.
He had the power to render us happy or unhappy, to make our service light or burdensome, of pleasure or of toil.
That's great.
My time grows short.
It's just these brief, sharp realizations. Oh my gosh, what have I
You are
done?
changed. You fear the world too much.
There is nothing as hard as poverty, so I pursue wealth.
What
I
a
have
beautiful
seen your
background.
nobler
I don't mean to go on
aspirations
and on,
fall
but my
off
gosh,
one
every
by
background
one,
is just gorgeous.
Until the master passion, gain, engrosses you.
I have never seen a Scrooge roll his eyes in that much of a condescending way. Have you?
Have I ever sought release?
In words? No, never.
In what then?
In a changed nature, in an altered spirit. May you be happy in the life you have chosen.
Now, unless I am very much mistaken, and I'll admit it's possible I am mistaken, but I believe that the voice of Belle is actually the same voice as the Ghost of Christmas Past.
That they are what they are. Do not blame me.
And of course, because it's animated, they can take full advantage of the transitions. Look at that. What a great transition that was. My goodness. Now, I don't mean to overstate the point and just keep saying, oh, wow, this is brilliant. But it really is a work of genius. A lot of people underestimate just how hard it is to take something that, when read aloud takes 4 to 5 hours and distill it into 25 minutes and yet fit almost every single element in its entirety in there, purely through visuals. And some of it is just like a second. I mean, the fact that he's wearing a scabbard that does not have a sword in it.
Spirit, conduct me where you will. If you have aught to teach me, well, let me profit by it.
They don't even bring attention to it. They don't even call attention to it. But it is a line from the book, and it's still there.
As they walked, the spirit shed from his torch a few drops of good cheer on the passers-by.
Look at that. Look at some of those beautiful camera angles. Isn't that just wonderful? It just fills you with this wonderful sense of Christmas cheer. Now that's Sir Michael Redgrave narrating.
He told me coming home that he hoped the people saw him in the church because he was a cripple, and it might be pleasant to them to remember upon Christmas Day who made lame beggars walk and blind men see.
What a great little line. I mean, they don't have to linger with the Cratchits too long. They just distill it to the essence.
Was lost in the snow.
Just a couple of sweet moments. And of course, the finest thing, the thing that should bring Scrooge so much shame, that a little child can understand the full gravity of why suffering may happen if there is a God, that perhaps it's to bring about a greater good through that suffering. And in this case, possibly to bring about Scrooge's redemption, but Tim even understands, hey, maybe I can remind other people of Jesus healing the cripples.
No. What then? If he be like to die, he had better do it. Don't. And decrease the surplus population. Oh, God, to hear the insect on the leaf pronouncing on the too much life among his hungry brothers in the dust.
What an amazing line. There's not really a version that I don't think is fantastic when it comes to that line, because everybody understands. That is when they draw attention to it. Even in the worst versions, they draw attention to what a horrific thing that was to say. The idea of saying, they're just extra people, and who cares? What an awful thing to say. Now, you may recognize this if you're a connoisseur of Christmas carols. This was actually done in live action using the song, I believe it was using the song Silent Night. It was actually done as a live action sequence in the Patrick Stewart production of A Christmas Carol, where he played Scrooge. The ghost takes Scrooge to various places to see all of these different walks of lives and these different people all singing the same Christmas song, miles apart. It just is a beautiful way to serve to illustrate that this is something so precious and important, this holiday, that even if you don't agree with the religion behind it, it is something that is so good for people, because it's something that we can all unify around. The idea that on this day, no matter what else happens in the year, we are going to try just a little harder.
He's given us plenty of merriment, I'm sure. And it would be ungrateful not to drink his health. And I say, Uncle Scrooge.
Uncle Scrooge.
A Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to the old man, whatever he is. He wouldn't take it from me, but may he have it nevertheless.
See, they cut out the game and everything, but they distill it. It's very fine.
It ends tonight.
Now, you can tell, I should have brought attention to this earlier, but you can tell that a lot of stuff
I see something strange.
from this inspired Robert Zemeckis' animated Christmas Carol with Jim Carrey. I mean, the fact that they are inside of a clock tower.
Are they yours?
They are man's.
And they cling to me. This boy is ignorance. This girl is want. Beware them both, but most of all, beware this boy.
Have they no refuge? No resource?
Are there no prisons? Are there no workhouses?
Yeah, and it strikes midnight, and the ghost disappears. So even that very clearly is something that inspired Robert Zemeckis, and I think that that's pretty interesting to see. Not only the book and all the interpretations of the book, but that the book has been reinterpreted so many times that the interpretations can spawn new interpretations. It's a fascinating thing that not many pieces of media have the honor of being able to illustrate. But there's just so many versions that it's really impossible not to draw inspiration from each other.
I have seen, but as I know your purpose is to do me good, lead on.
Of course, the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come really is the hardest of the ghosts to get down. And it's because of the way it's described in the book. In the book, it's described as wearing a black cloak. I've always thought it's funny. In this scene, there's always somebody snorting snuff. But yeah, despite the cloak, it does say that the ghost actually doesn't really have a definite shape or form. It's kind of formless. It's ever-shifting. So in a way, it's sort of like symbolic of the fact that the future doesn't have a shape yet. I think I mentioned it before, but the transitions are just fabulous in this film. They really do take advantage of all of the fun things they can do with these transition pieces. Look at that whip pan. You do not see a whip pan in animation very often.
What have we got there, buddy? E-blankets.
E-blankets?
Bed curtains.
And look at, they make this man look like such a little rat of a human, and then they even draw the parallel of all the rats around him. What a fabulous visual.
If he wanted to keep him after he was dead, why wasn't he natural in his lifetime?
It's a judgment on him.
And of course, starting with the ending of Christmas Past, we see a lot of clocks. I don't know if you noticed that.
I do see. Oh, God, merciful heaven, what is this? Spirit, this
A wonderful thing about it also is that you can make the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come incredibly tall in animation.
I understand you, and I would do it if I could, but I have not the power.
I don't have the power, Captain.
Power. Let me see some tenderness connected with a death.
That's a hard line for any version to get right.
My little child.
Oh, see that? Look at that. They didn't have to dwell on that long. All it took is just that few little words. Now look at the beautiful background, those gorgeous backgrounds. I mean, you couldn't do that naturalistically in a film and have such an amazing visual. Look at those tombstones like they're ready to eat him.
Am I the man who lay upon the bed?
A wonderful thing about this also is they don't cheapen a lot of these moments with music. They just let them have the silence and the dignity and the weight that they deserve. Oh, look at that. In the book it actually says, for the first time the hand began to shake.
These shadows you have shown me by an altered life. I will not shut out the lessons that they teach.
And again, you can take full advantage of those transitions because it's animated. That is just grand. And in the best versions, the transitions often suffer because in real life it's hard to blend things across two real life scenes.
Heaven and the Christmas time be praised for this. I just don't know what to do. I don't know what day of the month it is. I don't know how long I've been among the spirits. I don't know anything.
I love that. I love whenever a version keeps that line in because it's a great line. It's him fully accepting the fact that, as the Ghost of Christmas Present says, he is nothing. He is nothing. Oh, and he just decides to break the fourth wall with how long is it? 3 minutes left in the movie. He just decides to start breaking the fourth wall.
It's Christmas Day, and I haven't missed it. The spirits have done it all in one night.
The spirits have made me aware I am in a cartoon.
Of course they can.
Look at this. He tries to put a sock on a foot that already has a sock on it, and then he gives up, and then he puts on the other one. Oh, that's so great.
I scarcely ever looked at it before, but it's a wonderful knocker.
What a great line, huh?
I'll send it to Bob Cratchit. And he shan't know who sends it.
And that's great. Again, they keep in the very, very most important lines.
A Merry Christmas to you, sir.
And that is so important. It's the first thing Scrooge may have ever done in his life that is a good deed just for the sake of being a good deed, and he has no intention whatsoever of taking credit for it. Isn't that just one of those magical, amazingly wonderful things that Christmas brings about?
Is your master at home?
Yes, sir. He's in the dining room along with mistress.
Thank you. I'll just
This is something that
myself.
a lot of people can miss, but this is not a story that says if you don't celebrate Christmas you're a jackass. It's a story that says if you don't see the value in your fellow humans, then you are missing the point of life. And Christmas is really just an excuse to see the best in your fellow humans. It's a one day of the year that we all just kind of agree that we're going to try a little bit harder than we do the rest of the year. And it's a reminder that maybe the rest of the year we should be better.
I'll tell you what, my friend, I am not going to stand for this sort of thing any longer. And therefore, I am about to raise your salary. A Merry Christmas, Bob. Christmas.
Bob drops his hat.
I will raise your salary, Bob, and endeavor to assist your struggling family.
Poor Bob Cratchit.
Discuss your affairs this very afternoon, Bob.
Scrooge was better than
He just
his
laughed
word.
like a villain.
He did all he had promised and more. And to Tiny Tim, who did not die, he was a second father. It was said thereafter that Ebenezer Scrooge knew how to keep Christmas well, if any man alive possessed that knowledge.
And that's it. I mean, again, what just an absolutely magical production. To have somehow gotten away with trimming out like 4 hours of material and still preserved the entire essence of the story. Not just the essence, but a lot of the most refined, elegant points the book was making. And did it in quite literally a fourth, maybe a fifth of the time that a lot of productions take. And that's really all I have to say. It's just a wonderful production. I watch it every year, at least once a year. A lot of the time I watch it throughout the year because it's such a good feeling, and it's so simple, and it really does show what a simple story the story of Scrooge is. It's a bit like Mr. Rogers always said, deep and simple is far better than shallow and complex. And I think that is the essence of A Christmas Carol. It's simple and beautiful and deep. And that's why we keep coming back to it every year. So thank you for coming back to it with me. Throughout the month of December, starting now during the week of Thanksgiving, I am going to start looking at all sorts of different versions of A Christmas Carol. I have seen so many different versions throughout my life. It's my favorite Christmas story, and I just can't wait to share it, share some thoughts and some insight that I have on it, and just share the experience of watching it. And maybe if you haven't ever seen this one, go and check it out without me babbling over it. It's on YouTube. Go enjoy. Happy Thanksgiving, and Merry Christmas.